What's going on, everybody? What's going on? Real quick, let me adjust a couple things here as we get started. As you know, we got a lot to discuss tonight as well. Make sure I got everything sorted out real quick. We almost ready. We almost ready. We almost ready. We almost ready. Let me just do this one check. How's everybody doing? How's everybody doing? Anybody watch the Super Bowl? Anybody watch the Super Bowl? And if you did, what did you think about it? I know we got some San Fran people on the chat, and I want to know how you guys are feeling. You know what I'm saying? Some questionable decisions, some questionable calls. But man, you know how the game goes, man. You know how the game goes. You know how the game goes, man. But again, we got a bunch of different things to discuss today, and we also have a little giveaway that we're going to do. I'm going to explain that a little bit more, and we'll talk about what exactly that we are giving away to not today, but next week. What's going on, D2B, man? What's going on, man? Good to see you. Good to see you, man. Appreciate you taking the time. Really, really means a lot, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. Let's see what else we got going on here. Let's see what else we got going on. Pablo, what's going on, man? Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you, man. Good to see you. Okay. I think we're all good to go. I think we are all good to go, man. Let's get started. We'll get started. Those that will come in will come in. Those that will watch us a little bit later, we can catch up. But let's keep it going, man. So we got a bunch of different things to get into today. Obviously, a lot of fights happened last week. So we got to talk Teofimo Lopez and Jermaine Ortiz. We'll talk about that. Got to talk about Hamza Sheeraz, Liam Williams. We got to talk about that. Keyshawn Davis, Jose Pedraza. We got to talk about that. And of course, the fights that are happening this week. Any changes, your guys' thoughts on those changes. If you had changes, we'll talk about that as well, too. And we also got to talk about the news, or I guess no news, that Canelo shared with us. So we'll talk about that. Get your thoughts on that. Cool down segment. I have a story about meeting Larry Holmes because someone sent me the picture, DM me the picture of what I posted on the channel a couple months, last year, 2 years now, and asked me what was the backstory behind that. Give a little book giveaway, giving away this book here, copy of my second book. We'll talk about that, and then we'll head out with the quote of the week, and then we'll get out of here, man. So that's the plan for today. Not going to be too long of a show tonight. My voice is a little bit raspy. So trying to save it a little bit. Lots of videos coming this week as well, too. Before we got on here, we dropped Junto Nakatani in Santiago. And we also, what else did we put in, man? Sometimes I'll be forgetting some of the videos that I'll be doing. I'll be trying to, what did I just put out? It's on the tip of my tongue. Takuma Inoue and Jerwin Ancajas. Those two are up right now. Going to be some interesting fight. But real quick, if anybody that watched the Super Bowl, give me your thoughts. Give me your thoughts real quick. What do you think? Good game, not a good game? Good halftime show, not a good halftime show? What do you think, man? Let's touch on that for a quick 3 minutes. Man, Sabrina, I did just see that. I know Eddie Hearns gets a lot of slack, man, but I think he does a good job of at least trying to make fights happening and keeping good quality cards. That's a big signing. Man. Brother Francisco, what's going on, man? Coming to us from AZ. Decent game, brutal ending. I'm from the 415, lifelong 49er, was 14 when they won their first Super Bowl. Yeah, man. Yeah, it's some real tough plays that really didn't make it go in their favor, man. But at the same time, we'll see. We'll see what they can do moving forward, man. There's a target on the Chiefs' back. Obviously, they're trying to three-peat, but yeah, we'll see. Tough loss for them, man. Uncle Haas actually fighting again. Yeah, he is. He fought last year. He fought last year as well, too. So he's back again in Japan. His back is against the wall. Going to be an interesting fight, but I think he's got a really good shot at winning that fight. Eddie Hearn has been super high on him. Absolutely. Again, Eddie Hearn, you never know what is going on inside of his head, what he's going to say, but I think he means well. He wants to put on the fights, and that's a very good signing. It brings forward some interesting fights for him moving forward. So let's get into it. Teofimo, Jermaine Ortiz. What do we think of the fight? What did we think of the fight? This was a fight that I didn't expect it to go like how it expected. I did not expect it to go how it expected. I was expecting much more fireworks, a lot more action. And that's the great thing. That's the great thing about the sport, man, is we can talk about it as much as we want. And it's our job as spectators to talk about the fight, to build up the fight, right? But you never know how it's going to play out inside the ring, man. Now, people say different things. A lot of people say Jermaine Ortiz won the fight. People saying, Teofimo won the fight. Obviously, on paper, Teofimo won the fight. It is what it is. But I will say this, man. A lot of those rounds are pretty close. I don't think any round was extremely definitive to me. And the thing with Jermaine Ortiz, man, is you are already fighting the champion. And more times than not, the champion is going to get the benefit of the doubt. They're going to lean towards him. And if you are not the one really imposing your will on the champ, you're not going to get that decision victory. You're going to have to take it from him. And sometimes, yeah, he was moving around and he was evading certain shots. But to some of the judges, it looks like you're quote unquote running, even though he was boxing beautifully. I thought he had a really good game plan going into the fight. It was a much different Ortiz than we saw in the last fight. His conditioning looked very good. But as far as activity and volume, man, he didn't really do a whole lot. He was evading and moving. And when he was letting his hands go slightly, he was having some good shots, getting it in. But I just don't think he did enough. I don't think the definitive rounds for him was really working in his favor. Not that Teofimo did a whole lot either, but when he did hit Ortiz, man, it was eye-catching. And so some of those rounds are very close, and some of those rounds you could have went either way. But if you are going to beat the champ and take the champ's belt, man, you have to let your hands go a little bit more. You can't just be moving laterally and getting out of the way, and you're looking good but you have to bring the fight as well too. And I don't think that he did that enough in the fight to get the win. So again, that's my thoughts. I didn't think it wasn't the most exciting fight. It was a fight that was completely different from what I expected. Even though I like Jermaine Ortiz's game plan, if he would have let his hands go a little bit more and engage a little bit more, man, the outcome might have been different. But when you're just evading, being elusive, and you're kind of letting your hands go, you're kind of not going to get that win. What you guys think? What's going on, my man? Good to see you. Good to see you down here, man. Good to see you down here. What's going on, my man? Good to see you as well, too. Mr. Technical, what's up, man? I haven't seen you in a little bit. We haven't discussed a couple things in a little bit. Teo lost the fight. Actually, the circus performance was pretty funny. It perfectly encapsulates Teo, a clown. Man, I like Teo, man. I like his entrances. He's trying to bring a little showmanship, but I can understand why you say that he lost the fight. I'm not mad at it. Clean punching, even. I honestly thought it was going to be a draw. Like, I'm looking at the stats. I'm seeing the fight. I'm like, oh, okay, it's looking like a possibility. It could be a draw, but I'm always just like, man, you got to take it definitively from the champion. And, the judges clearly didn't see enough, but I thought it could have been a draw as well, too. And the other thing, too, is, man, Teofimo, and we talked about this before, right? Like, we're just not really sure what we're going to get. The man looked immaculate when he was fighting Josh Taylor. And then he goes in this one, and you're just like, bro, you was you was cutting off the ring against Josh Taylor. You was setting up your shots against Josh Taylor. You were doing your thing. And then I was just like, yo, you didn't even do this. The game plan was all out of whack for Ortiz. It's like you felt like he was just gonna come and engage with you, and suddenly a guy who I had on my pound for pound list didn't know how to cut off the ring. So it's just like, yo, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? So all right, let's see. Elite boxer that can't cut off the ring. Man, you said it just there. You said it just there. T.O. is too inconsistent, but Ortiz did a decent job. He didn't go take the title from the champ. Absolutely, man. I'm with you on that one. Again, as we've been saying, we're just not sure what Teofimo we are going to get. The at his best, we know what he can do, but we just don't know. And even at that fight, parts of him, in my opinion, I mean, after the fight, you always see the emotion of a fighter, and it brings some questionable sense when after they awarded him the belt, the emotion that he was showing kind of just makes me think like, man, did you think you lost that fight? Again, different things with different people. I've talked to a lot of people who had Ortiz winning the fight, not mad at you, no means. Had a lot of people say, man, Teofimo won the fight, not mad at that, no means. Right. So this is one of those fights where it could have went back and forth. But again, man, to beat the champ, you got to definitively take the belt from the champ, because the judges, more times than not, are not going to give you a decision victory. Clean punching, even effective aggression, neither slight lean to Teo. Defense, Ortiz ring generalship. Ortiz scored it for Ortiz. Man, I'm not mad at that at all, man. I completely see where you're coming from. Man, I went to bed at 3 a.m. on Thursday for a pretty boring fight. Same story a couple months ago again with Shakur and Edwin De Los Santos. Absolutely, my brother Pablo, man. Absolutely. Teo was just a roller coaster fighter, man. Yeah, honestly, man, his career has been consistent with that in the past couple fights. I have this saying that I always say, man, if you want to know the history, if you want to know the person, check out their history. And historically, Teofimo has been up and down. When he's on, money, but when he's off, yeah, it's definitely not pretty. I think Ortiz lost the fight rather than Teo won. Jermaine didn't know how to close the show. I agree. I scored it clearly for Ortiz. I know that many feel you have to take the belt from the champ definitively. I've never agreed with that. I think we should judge the fight round by round. I absolutely agree, my brother. And, if it was that easy in boxing, this would be the format to do it. But, man, we never know until we know. And even when the fight is over, we never know until the judges bring it in. And so the judges might be saying something completely different. But again, if it was judged this way, I think a lot more wrongs would be corrected. Teo is so inconsistent that in one breath he can say, God bless you all. And then in the next he's saying, yeah, that was, man, I didn't even watch the post-fight interview, man. I was really just like, man, I was upset a little bit, man. And like, I'm like, yo, because it wasn't what I expected. I didn't even, as soon as it got to the 12th round, I was just like, yeah, man, I'm off this. I didn't even know he really won until I check the social platforms the next day. So I'm like, man, this is what it is. I just was not impressed with it, man. I didn't like it. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. Leonard didn't take it from Hagler, but they gave him the decision. Man, some questionable stuff happening, man. Teo's potential reach its maximum point. That's a great question, man. First of all, good to see you down here. There's been many conversations, man. And I've said this when he was fighting George Kambosos. Man, I was like, win, lose, or draw, I think he needs a change of environment. And I think he needs to go look for something different from a coaching standpoint. And I think his dad took him all that he can go. His dad did a great job with him, man. And sometimes, sometimes you've reached your ceiling with certain people. I don't think Teo has reached his full potential, but perhaps a change is needed for him to get there. And he seems to be a loyal guy, man. And I just don't know if he's ever going to change his situation. I think there's more in him, but I don't know if his dad can pull it out of me anymore. I really think he needs a change. Will it happen? I don't know. Probably not, man. Who really knows with Teofimo, man? You just yeah. So that's what I got to say about that. Let's move forward. Let's talk about Hamza Sheeraz versus Liam Williams post fight, man. You know, I gave Williams a massive benefit of the doubt, because I'm like, I always like to believe the best in a fighter, man. I'm like, if Eubank dropped him with a jab, maybe something was happening there. Maybe preparation wasn't right. Maybe he was already hurt going in. So I'm like, yo, Sheeraz has the goods. He's very talented. He's much bigger than I thought that he was, man. He looked massive in that ring. But then the fight started. I'm just like, man, Liam looks rough already. He looks slow. He looks a little bit sluggish. And we know his defense is not good. It's not great. The man gets touched up consistently. But I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I said, man, maybe he can turn back the hands of time one more time and give this young guy a fight. Give this young guy, use my experience and see what I can do with this young man. And yeah, it was over with very quickly. Got dropped with the jab. Sheeraz closed out the show. Williams, man, it might be over for him. It might be over for him if he's continuing to get dropped like this with the jab. And Sheeraz has a nice, snappy, powerful jab. But to me, anytime I see a fighter get dropped with a jab, man, I'm like, yo, your chin is shot. Like, it's done. It's done. And I really noticed it. I'm like, as soon as I saw how much bigger Sheeraz was in the fight, in the weigh-in, I'm just like, holy crap. This man is much bigger in this ring tonight than I've ever seen him. And so he made short work of Liam Williams, man. I'm not even gonna say I was impressed because I feel like I didn't see enough. I feel like I didn't see enough. But for him to be able to come in and not play any games, to come in and show business and to close out the show as quickly as he did, man, it was an impressive performance. An impressive performance, man. But yeah, Liam Williams, man, man, take some time off, man, and really think about this, man, because, man, you can't be getting dropped just off some jabs alone. You know what I'm saying? Even if it is a good jab. So, yeah, facts. He definitely needs a corner change for Teo Syrup, man. Yes, I agree. Williams messed up my parlay. I had round 5 to 8 and make it to the first round, man. I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I chose to believe, based off the history, that he could muster up one more courageous fight like Deryachenko did against Munguia. But man, I was completely wrong. I'm not giving you the benefit of the doubt no more, Liam Williams, man. If we see you in the ring anymore, I certainly hope that you don't go out like this. Hopefully you come back and at least get another fight and able to do your thing, man. But Hamza Sheeraz, man, I'm still, this sets things up a little bit, man. I still think he needs more rounds to me. But man, if he keeps looking like this and coming in like this, man, he's definitely got a lot of potential, man. Again, I knew he was big, tall wise, but man, he was much bigger inside that ring to me, man. And yeah, that I think he can be a problem. I think he is a problem, but I still want to see a little bit more of him, man. Me personally. Jab knockdowns are so demoralizing. Oh man, it's so discouraging. Like you feel like if you get hit with a jab and like this is your profession, this is what you do. A man pushes forth a jab and you just get dropped like that. You're like, yo, it's gonna be a long night. And the fight just started. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, tough one for him. Williams, through a booking time to retire. It might be. It might be. Who do you think? What do you think he will do with his career after that fight? My man, I don't know yet. I don't know yet. I really want to see a little bit more. I want to see him get tested a little bit more, or tested. Yeah, definitely tested a little bit more. Liam was supposed to give him a test, but he didn't even. The only thing that got tested was like his jab, so I just want to see a little bit more. The intangible things are all there, but it's like, man, we definitely just want to see a little bit more. So I can't even really say just yet, but the potential is there, the size is there, the power is there. The heart and will. I still want to see what that's like a little bit more. But man, his upside ceiling's looking pretty high right now. Wins from surprising, disappointing, surprising. Absolutely, man. It was terrible. It was terrible. What's going on, Mr. Lenny? What's going on, man? Good to see you. Hope things well for you, Thurman. Thurman is a tough fighter. If he hasn't slowed down, man, I think that is a tougher fight than most people think, man. Because of how one time is always going to take the fight seriously, but it's how long it takes him to get going is going to be the thing for me, and how well he takes body shots, man. Because Thurman, Tszyu is going to test that body. Tszyu has got a lot of momentum now, a lot of confidence. But even though Thurman has been inactive, I don't think you can count him out fully. You know what I'm saying? I don't think you can count him out. But gonna be an interesting fight when that one does happen. Long night or short one, man. A bit of both. Long preparation for a short night. Oh, that's got to be so rough. And I know I think about it from my track and field experience, man. When you're preparing for a competition day after day, week after week, day after day, week after week, and then you get to competition and you don't perform well, man, it just makes you feel like the whole training camp was a complete wash. So can't imagine what that man is thinking right now, especially as quickly as that night ended, man. Couldn't analyze Thurman because he's been on a break for too long. Yeah. We can only go off what he looked like in his last fight. But his last fight seemed so distant, we just forgot what he even looks like. You know what I'm saying? So I'll be forgetting what one time looks like until I see him. But one thing about Keith Thurman, man, is he is going to sell a fight. That man's a showman inside the ring, and I really think with him boxing the bigger scale of the marketing of the sport and getting the casuals in the sport helps when you have guys who can sell the fight like a Keith Thurman, because man, he can sell a fight. His marketing is very good, man. That man's a salesman. That man's a salesman. So let's keep it going. Let's talk about Keyshawn Davis, Jose Pedraza. What do we think about this fight? Man, Sniper came in with the wrong game plan. I was not expecting. I don't remember the last time that I've seen an aggressive Jose Pedraza. And even him being aggressive and being on the front foot didn't even really look right to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was ducking and weaving. And I was just like, yo, what's all this movement that you're doing? Sniper, what's all this? No, I don't like this. I didn't like this version of him. Didn't like this type of, I didn't like the aggressive Jose Pedraza. I wasn't really a big fan of that type of version of him. And so to me, once Keyshawn decided to let his hands go, man, you could tell his fight wasn't going to last long. He hit Pedraza with the right hand, and Pedraza's legs got really wobbly, and he was already looking like he was about to drop. I say, what's going on? And then the round ended. And the next round, it was more of the same. It was Pedraza trying to bring the pressure, but then when he was letting his hands go and the steam that was not on those punches, I was like, man, maybe the weight drop did more damage to him than he expected, right? Because those punches had no steam on them. And if the punches don't have any steam on them, Keyshawn's not going to respect that. And so I felt like the way how Keyshawn was able to turn on the switch and close out the show, that was impressive. The way how he was able to turn on the switch and close out the show, and how accurate he looked, and the power that he was able to generate, I thought that was impressive. I thought it was an impressive way how he broke down Pedraza. I'm not surprised by the stoppage of how he beat Pedraza, right? But the fact that he's able to come back after all of the external stuff that was going on outside of the ring, and he went on to say, you know what, he was smoking a whole lot, and he wasn't really centered in the sport, fully away from it. He was smoking and training, so if this is what he's going to look like moving forward, man, that's great. It's great for the sport. But at the same time now, I want to see him against someone in the same realm as him at this stage in their career. Pedraza, they're not in the same realm anymore. Pedraza, that didn't look like the sniper that we are accustomed to seeing. And maybe his best years are behind him, or so it seems. So for Keyshawn next, man, I want to see him against guys his own age right now, who is in that same ballpark, in that same vicinity. So I know he's talking about, man, I want to fight Teofimo Lopez, but I don't really want to see that right now, right? I want to see him against someone who I'd love to see him against a Frank Martin. Like I would love to see that fight. Will it happen? Who knows? But I would love to see that fight. But I thought his fight was going to go the distance. Again, gave Pedraza the benefit of the doubt. I felt like he, with his experience, he would be able to maneuver and handle a younger fighter and at least make things a little bit harder and make things harder for him to get hit. But when he came in on the front foot aggressively, I'm like, yo, that's not the sniper that I'm used to. Don't switch up. You know what I'm saying? Don't switch up. But he switched up the whole game plan. I'm not a fan of aggressive Jose Pedraza. That's not the version that the counter punching version that got him wins. That was a rough one to see, man. But shout out to Keyshawn Davis, though, man. Continue to do your thing, man. I hope that this makes you continue to move forward and you completely get locked in and dialed in and stay that way. Stay hungry. A name that comes to mind before I check out some of his comments. Again, I would love to see him against Frank Martin next. I would love to see him against Morataya. I would love to see that fight as well, too. Yeah, that's the two names that come to mind. Man, Frank Martin got to get back into the ring, man. Ghost got to get back into the ring. Got to get back into the ring, man. But again, a good performance of Keyshawn Davis. Did not like anything Pedraza did in that fight, man. I don't like front foot aggressive Jose Pedraza. Didn't think that was the right game plan. And the moment that I saw that happening in the fight, I was just like, oh, it's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time. Then he got buzzed with one shot. I'm like, oh my gosh, bro. Like, that's not. Be consistent with who you are, man. Be consistent with who you are. But again, that's boxing. You got to go into the ring. We can only base things off what we saw in the last fight, but you got to go into the ring and put forth the best game plan for you to win the fight. But him being an aggressor in that fight, yeah, that was definitely an interesting one for me. Thurman, first fight at 154 for an inactive Keith Thurman versus KO artist like Tim Tszyu. Man, that's a dangerous retirement check. Hey, one thing about Keith Thurman is he going to find himself a check. He going to find himself a check. He going to find himself a check. Man, that stoppage was deadly. That stoppage was deadly. But continue giving him, I want to see him in 2 more solid fights before, he really gets to see those top 5 guys, because he's still only, 20 years old. So I don't think you need to rush Abdullah Mason by no means. But, man, he does look impressive. He looks really good. Really, really good. Produced by Watson. What's going on? What's going on, man? Good to see you stopping by. Disappointed in Pedraza's performance. Expected it to be more competitive. You and me both, brother. You and me both. Keyshawn looked good for me. I just don't understand why he lost pace in some rounds. I think sometimes Keyshawn just takes rounds off, man. And, maybe he's saving it for a second burst. But I felt like any time that he wanted to close out the show, he definitely could have done that on his own pace. So, who knows? Pedraza was limping, walking when camera first showed him on the back. Oh, I missed it. I must have missed it. Oh, I must have missed it. Was it? So you think he was hurt? Over the hill? Oh, absolutely. Yeah. He's I think he's still gonna probably get a couple more paydays because of his name and what he's done. And now he becomes a litmus test, a gatekeeper. But man, I hope he got paid enough where he does not have to be that gatekeeper, man. You don't want to see people go out like that. Keyshawn, yes. That's the name that came to mind. I would love to see that fight. That's a good fight, man. Do you think Davis is ready for a dangerous name? I think so. Who? I like what my brother Francisco said. I would love to see that fight. I would love to see him against Mortaya or Frank Martin as well too. I don't really care too much about the Andy Cruz fight. I know that fight would sell because it has all the history and stuff and all that stuff. Man, do that later. I'm not really too interested in seeing him fight Andy Cruz right now. Although that fight would sell because you can build up the story and all that good stuff. But I don't really care too much about that fight right now. Kid Austin or Mason, good fights for Davis. Yeah. Which one of these guys is calling him out? I think it's Kid Austin. Is Kid Austin the one that wants to fight him? Been calling him out a couple times. It's rare seeing a contender fight a true peer of his. That's even true of some champions. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's 19. That's crazy. Yeah, so I'm thinking, as far as title shot, give me when he's about 21 years old, right? 20, I want to see him fight 2 more times this year, next year. Then I want to see him fight guys like top 8 guys. Then I want to see him go up against someone who's in the top 6 and see how he does with those opponents, right? But he definitely has the goods. He's 19. We don't need to rush him. Let him continue to develop, build his confidence, and continue to harness and work on his craft a little bit. But man, that young man, he's got the goods. Yeah, that's what I thought. Him and his dad were calling him out. I remember watching those interviews. I was like, man, the fight's gonna happen, man. Just relax a little bit. So that's what I thought about that Keyshawn fight. Let's move forward. Lots of fights happening this weekend. And we'll go over some of these real quick. Let me know what you guys think about this fight. The most exciting ones that you're thinking about, obviously, O'Shaquie Foster and Abraham Nova fight week. This is going to be a very good fight, man. It's going to be a very good fight. In the breakdowns of this fight, man, even though I have a really good relationship with Abraham Nova, man, I'm always rooting for him. I think it's going to be tough for him this weekend to come in and to beat O'Shaquie Foster. I think he has to stop O'Shaquie or at least score a couple knockdowns, because the one thing about O'Shaquie Foster, man, is, man, he's very technically sound. The hand speed is nice. The man is it's the case of a boxer versus a puncher, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how certain things go as the fight progresses. The longest, this is Nova's first 12-round fight. If I remember correctly, he hasn't went over 8 rounds. So it's going to be interesting to see how he handles that if that fight goes into those rounds. A lot of people have been saying, we've seen it back and forth as well too. A lot of people are saying, man, Nova gasses out in 6 to 5 rounds. We'll see what happens this weekend. He's going to have to cut off the ring. He's going to have to make the engagement count when he's in close. He's got to get his shots off. He's got to target the body, and he's got to make O'Shaquie Foster pay. O'Shaquie is coming off of a big comeback win against Rocky Hernandez. So emotionally and physically, like, that stuff does something to you. And he was losing the fight before he got the stoppage. Like, he needed to get the stoppage in order to win the fight. So there are things there, aggressive style, cutting off the ring, being able to capitalize when he's in close, making the shot counts. There are things that Nova can do to really disrupt O'Shaquie Foster, right? But it's going to be interesting to see how that fight unfolds on the night. Before we move forward to Cortez and Cavalier, what you guys got to say about it? Great Friday card, absolutely. Foster 9-12 KO. Hey, I would like that. That would be very interesting, man, because a lot of people have been saying as well too, man, Nova's chin is a little bit suspect, and we're gonna see on the night. I give Nova a shot. I think it's a 50-50 fight in my opinion, but I also could see a situation where it is one-sided. I could also see a situation where, O'Shaquie comes in and stays in the pocket a little bit longer than he needs to, and he gets caught with the shot that maybe drops him to the canvas. But O'Shaquie got a chin on him as well, too. So gonna be interesting, man. I'm looking forward to seeing how it does unfold. This is a great card as well, too. On this card, Cortez and Cavalier is going on this one as well, too. Yeah, this is going to be a good fight, man. I think Cortez has a very interesting style. It's not the prettiest style, but he's effective. You know what I'm saying? And he has that type of style where it frustrates his opponents. Whereas BC, he's a little bit taller, a little rangy, got that reach on him, very aggressive in the stance, and he knows how to close out the show. So if he can use his physical advantages to his advantage and not let Cortez frustrate him, because, I mean, both of these guys have questionable punches at times. Questionable in the sense of, man, there's a lot of behind the head shots that I've seen of both men during certain times in their fights where they've gotten away with it. So who's going to get under each other's skin the most? Who's going to be in character and who's going to get the other out of character? So I'm looking forward to seeing how this one unfolds. I think it's a 50-50 fight, but it could be one-sided as well too, you know. So we'll see how this one unfolds. See how it unfolds. Let's go on to Carrington and Bernard Torres, man. This is going to be a very good fight. If you haven't heard of Torres before, man, if you turn on the tape and you watch him do his thing, yeah. He can fight. He can fight. And the fight that he lost against Fortundo, I actually thought that he won that fight. But this is a guy that is going to make Shushu fight. This is a guy who is going to bring the best out of Shushu, and Shushu is going to do the same. It's actually, to me, like, look, Shushu could come in and do his thing. I think Shushu wins this fight by a body shot in the latter rounds. I think the safer bet for everybody that's possibly placing a bet, I think this fight does go to full distance. But I think Shushu, with how he looked in his last fight, if he can use some of Torres' aggression against him, man, there'll be some nice openings where he can really get off and hurt the liver and hurt the rib cage a little bit consistently throughout the rounds. But man, don't count Torres out. This man can fight. And I'm expecting both of these men to bring out the best out of each other, man. This is a fight that I think could steal it for fight of the night. Or Cortez and Cavalier as well, too. That could be one as well, too. But again, still rolling with Shushu to get it done. Let's discuss this next one real quick before I go to the comments. Again, as we've talked about this video, as we did breakdown for these videos, let me know, has anything changed for you guys in any of the fights that we discussed? Let me know, and we'll touch on those as well, too. Now, Kirel versus Nanshinga 2, the rematch. We saw what happened in the first fight, man. The first fight, I thought Nanshinga was going to get it done. Thought he was building up some nice momentum. I thought he was doing some really nice things. Obviously, he's got that right hand. He's looking to set up that right hand. He's got the power. But as the fight started, man, the pressure of Kirel really got under his skin. And he was not able to handle that consistent pressure. Because even though Kirel was coming forward, he was not always hitting. But the pressure and the presence of someone who is always in front of you, cutting off the ring, even if they're not throwing, for the fighter who is defending it, you're getting tired. Legs are getting tired. You're trying to anticipate, man, if I go left, is he going to come right? If I go right, is he going to try to land an overhand shot? You're thinking about all these different things, and mentally you're exhausted, you know? So for me, I felt like, man, Nanshinga made a mistake when he shouldn't have, and Kirel made him pay. But Kirel was going to keep that same consistent pressure round to round every single round. So even if Nanshinga didn't get dropped in the second round, man, I felt like at some point like he would have got caught. So as we go into the rematch of this fight, you know, I think the same outcome is still going to happen. I'm expecting a better performance from Nanshinga, but at the same time, when you get stopped, when you lose a fight, it's different. You lose a decision fight, you lose a close fight. Okay, you know, cool. You can make some good adjustments, obviously, but how you lose a fight plays psychological warfare with you, right? So now in the back of his head, he's probably thinking, yo, I can't get stopped again, right? I have to keep my composure. I have to find a way how to get my get back. And when a guy beats you, you come into a fight, whether you think about it or not, emotional, because you're like, yo, he embarrassed me last fight. I can't wait to line up that right hand. And you might take a risk and find yourself in the same position. I think Shingo will give a better performance. Absolutely. But I think there's a lot of questions about him now, especially in how that performance went, that he's going to have to answer on the night. Can he take a punch consistently? I still don't think Canelo is a big puncher like that, right? But when you get stopped like that, it's one thing when you're in training and you're having training partners and they're hitting you, but that's a control space. You can blow the whistle, timeout. You got the headgear on, but you get a little PTSD a little bit when you go into the ring and you get hit the first time and you're like, wait a minute, I remember what that felt like, and you mentally take yourself out of the fight. So I'm expecting a better performance from Shingo, but I'm still expecting Canelo to come out on top. So I'm still rolling with O'Shaquie Foster. But I'm not counting out Nova. You know, I never like going against people that I have a relationship with, right? But I try not to be biased, man. You know how we get down on the channel. We talk the fight as it is. I really think if Nova's going to win this fight, he has to get a couple knockdowns, or he has to stop O'Shaquie Foster, has to cut off the ring. Going with Brian Cavalier in this one. I know when I made the video, someone said Cavalier is negative 600 or something like that. And that man, I don't remember who that man was, but he was talking a little bit too reckless for me, but I let him have it. I get he's the underdog. I absolutely get that, man. But I think he could come in and get the upset here and really bring his name to a different level. You know, kind of reminds me of Espinoza a little bit. This fight could be similar to that. It could or it couldn't. We'll see. I'm going with the underdog, even if he's a massive underdog. Going with Shushu over Torres. Going with Curel against Shingo. All right, let's check out these comments. Yo, what do you think of Rocky? Blue Collar, what's going on, my man? What's going on, man? I was just checking the comments real quick before that I came on here, man. And I just want to say I appreciate that super thanks that you sent, man. I really appreciate that. That's love. That's love. This fight, I got Rocky Mob, man. It's if I remember correctly, it is in his home country. And so I think it's going to be tough for Sugar to come out on top on that one. Not that he can't, but man, it's going to be a tough one. I think Rocky is coming with something to prove, man. Coming with something to prove. So I lean with him in this fight. I think he gets it done. My bad for getting off topic. Oh, all good, bro. All good. All good. All good. I favor Cavalier's first, but upon second review, I like Cortez. I'm not mad at that by no means, man. I completely can understand why Cortez is the favorite. Absolutely. Absolutely. You took Cavalier odds. Nice. Yeah, man. I took him. I think he can get it done, man. I think his reach is going to be a problem. I like the aggression. Now, he does get cut. But whenever he gets cut from the fights that we've seen, again, going off the history of his career, he seems to turn it up, man. He seems to be able to compose himself, and the moment hasn't seemed too big for him despite that loss. He's really progressed since that loss. It's going to be tough for him because the odds are not in his favor, but I think he can get it done on the weekend, man. If he comes in with the right game plan, I think he can get it done. But again, completely understand why Cortez is the favorite. Completely get it. Team Shockey all day, every day. Yeah, my man Pablo, man, you told me why O'Shaquie was big for you, man. You had a very good reason, man. I'm not mad at that by no means. Shout out to Shock, man. Shushu a problem. Yeah, and that last fight, he definitely looked like a problem, man. He looked real good. He got stopped by a guy with like 20%. Yeah, that was not a good look. I'm not gonna lie to you. That was not a good look for Shingo, man. And even though he stopped Shingo, he's not a power puncher. He's not that guy to me. You know, yeah, you're right, man. You're right. Not a good look. I'm with Shushu after the fight. He could test his skill against a wash, but less risky. Isaac Dogbe. That's a good fight. It's a good fight. Although I think Torres gives him a better fight. We'll see. Obviously, it could be one-sided. He could get dropped in the first round. Shushu could lose. Like we'll see on the night. Anything can happen. But I wouldn't mind seeing that as well too. But I think he's got a tough opponent in Torres right in front of him, man. It's gonna be a good fight. Getting flatlined with a guy with no prop is probably worse than getting dropped with a jab. That is a great man. I should do a poll about that one, my brother. I should do a poll about that one. That's you're right about that one, man. You might be right about that one. All right, let's keep it pushing. Let's keep it pushing. Any more thoughts on those fights real quick? I want to get everybody the opportunity to share their piece. We can share it, talk about it. If nothing else, we'll keep moving forward. Let's keep it going. So, man, I didn't even know Canelo was giving news. One of my mans hit me up and said, yo, Canelo's coming out with some news. I said, okay, cool. Let me know what happens, because I never really paid too much attention to some of the stuff that Canelo says, because you just never know. One thing I like about Canelo, though, man, is he gonna fight at least twice a year. Guaranteed twice a year. That man, he gonna fight twice a year. And so the news was that, he's going to sign a contract with a TV company in Mexico for the fights to be free. Shout out to Canelo, man. I see what you're doing. You're looking out for your peoples, man. That's much love. But then he didn't say who was going to fight. Yeah, there's been speculation that it's going to be Charlo and going to be Munguia, but I'm like, oh, so you didn't really say nothing. You didn't really say nothing. You ain't tell us who you fighting. You say he's going. What? He said he was going to be American. Like, let's say, yo, we're not trying to play. This ain't hide and seek, man. We're not trying to do all that. We're not trying to work too hard. We're not trying to get homework. We want to know who you gonna fight. You don't gotta. So he didn't tell us nothing. We are speculating. People are speculating that it's going to be Charlo and Munguia. Then I hear something about him and Crawford. I hear something about him and Benavidez. I hear something about he's going to fight Benavidez in September. We don't know what's real and what's not, what's true and what's false. So as far as I know and what I'm going towards, the news is the fact that you went back home and you have found a way to make your fights free for your peoples. That's the news. We don't know who you're fighting. That's the news. We don't know who you're fighting yet. So all the Canelo build up to kind of get us right back to square one. So it ain't no news. It ain't no news. Canelo news. See, 100%. We didn't get no news. We did not get no news. But I'm sure he'll be fighting Charlo. And we'll see what happens after that, man. But it's what it is. It's what it is. Here in Mexican TV, Saul said that his next rival will be American on May 4th in Las Vegas. He didn't say who. He said that today. Appreciate that background, man. Appreciate that double check. Yeah. Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see. Las Vegas, big money, big sales. Canelo's going to make millions. And whoever Canelo fights is probably going to make the most money that they've made in their career. After Jamal Charlo, he's probably going to be looking to get his get back for his brother and collect a big payday. But the thing is, man, for as much as Canelo is, I don't have a lot of gripes with Canelo like other people. Like, I like Canelo. I don't really have too many problems with him, man. But for a guy who took the belts at 168 and made it an intentional progress to move up and fight guys and take belts and fight, man, you got to fight guys in your division, man. At least you're giving us title defenses, but you're bringing up guys from other divisions, once 154, now 160 to fight you. Man, we just want to see you fight guys in your division, mainly Benavidez. If you're not going to give us Benavidez, then give us somebody else in that division, because I believe like he's just holding up the division, man. He is defending his belt and he is beating quality guys. I'm not going to say that he's beating quality guys, but again, man, we want to see you defend your belt against guys in your weight category, mainly Benavidez. If you're not going to give us Benavidez, give us Morrell. If you're not going to give us Morrell, man, give us somebody else in 168 who competes at 168. That's the only thing that I have with Canelo, man. We just want to see a defense in guys in your own category, in your weight group, man. 168, give it to us. Will we get it? Canelo controls the show, right? He's still the guy that brings in the most money, man. So it is what it is. He only said the nationality. The contract with PBC is still valid. Crawford, Charlo. Yeah, from what everybody says, all the big sources, they're saying Charlo. And I don't know, man. I don't know, man. I don't. I'm gonna watch the fight. I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm not gonna watch the fight. I'm gonna watch the fight. But there's more guys that I would like to see him fight than Charlo. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure many of you echo those same sentiments as well too. They're saying that he's fighting Charlo. Yeah, no one wants to see that. Yeah, not my first choice. Not my first choice. The other Charlo. Not my first choice. Not into the Charlo fight. Yeah, see, a bunch of us, man, we're in the same alignment in this category. That's not our first fight. Not the first one that we want to see, man. Canelo's equation nowadays is earn most money possible, minimizing punches received. There is no way he fights Morel or Benavidez. Maybe just Munguia could be a possible contender. Yeah, I think Munguia, I can understand why he fights Munguia, right? It's gonna sell. Cinco de Mayo Day, he goes, he brings that, and it's a big fight in Mexico, right? Like, it's a big fight. Or if he has it in Vegas or Arizona, like, those are big fights. So I can understand why that fight would happen. But Charlo fight, I don't know. Not the fight that I want to see. Not my first choice. Munguia fight is okay. 100%, 100%, 100%, 100%. And I could see a situation, my brother Francisco, where, okay, say he fulfills his obligations this year, fights 2 fights as we normally does, and we don't get the Benavidez fight. What if he says, you know what? I got one more fight in me, and then I'm out of here. Well, that one more fight could be back in Mexico against somebody who is less than, and he retires, and we never get to see that fight. I think that could be a possibility as well, too. Or he opens up the phone. I know he sees everything on Twitter. I know he sees everything in Instagram. People saying, yo, you got to give us this fight. You got to give us this fight. Because then if he doesn't give us that fight, even though we want to see that fight, if we never get that fight, it is going to be, man, Canelo ducked Benavidez. And that's going to mitigate all of the stuff that he's done in his career. Not that he hasn't done great things, but man, if we don't get the fights that we want to see, a lot of people are going to be looking at his career as like, man, he ain't give us that one fight that we wanted to see. Even though Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao fought later than what we wanted to see those guys fight. I thought Manny was a little bit probably about 2 or 3 years past this prime. We still got to see the fight, so interesting. Bealey, man, that's a good fight as well too. Even though Bealey is a little bit reckless at times for me, and I think Canelo might clip him, but that would be a good fight because it would force Canelo to fight. Canelo is a soulless money machine. Hey, man, one thing about Canelo is he gonna make some money. He gonna make some money. I want to see Bealey versus one of the top guys at 168. Absolutely. I think it's time. I think it's time for him to be in the mix. I think it's time for him to get a step-up fight. I think it's time for him. I wouldn't even mind seeing him against a Caleb Plant. I wouldn't mind seeing that. I wouldn't mind seeing, well, I don't think Durrell is fighting anymore. I haven't heard his name anymore in a little bit, but I wouldn't mind seeing that fight as well too. Mbili Morel would be another good fight I wouldn't mind seeing as well too. But definitely agree with this right here, Blue Collar, man. It is time for Mbili to get into these fights with these top guys in 168 because we can only watch so much of the level of caliber guys that he's fighting before we start to say we don't want to see that no more. So again, Canelo, we are expecting it to beat Charlo. We'll see if it happens on the night. Let's move going. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. One more comment just came out. Billy's defense is too weak. Morel Benavidez would be a nightmare for him. Yeah, and Billy's very one-dimensional. He's very straightforward. You know what he's gonna do. He's gonna be in your face, volume, but he takes a little bit too much risk for me. And I'm a guy that likes to see guys take risks, but he takes a little bit too much risk, and his defense is very, very, very leaky, as you just said, my brother. So let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. Cool down segment. We got 2 more things to talk about, and we're out of here. Cool down segment. Again, pardon the coughing. I'm losing my voice a little bit here. Cool down segment. If it's your first time on the live, cool down segment is my take going back to track and field after the race, after competition, after practice. You go cool down, you're winding down because you know you get to go home. So now we're on the home stretch of things. And so got to talk about this one real quick, man. I posted a picture on the channel maybe 2022. So it's been about 2 years now. And it was a picture of Larry Holmes, right? And a lot of people were saying, yo, what did the champ say, right? What was that? How did you meet the champ, right? So didn't really explain too much about it. So here's how this meeting happened, because a lot of people were asking and I did not answer it. I wasn't ignoring you, just waiting for the right time. And the weekly show is here, so it's the right time. So here's how this transpires. So my wife, originally from the Jersey area, but she grew up in Easton, Pennsylvania. Who is from Easton, Pennsylvania? The Easton assassin, Mr. Larry Holmes. So I remember the first time I went to Easton, there's this big statue of Larry Holmes that recently just got built at the time. Maybe it was about 2 years old. And the statue is massive, man. It's massive. It got the champ looking strong. It got the champ looking strong. And so I remember saying to my fiance at the time, I said, yo, it would be cool to meet the champ. I said, you think you can make that happen? Because my wife, one of her childhood friends, her grandfather is Larry Holmes. So I said, yo, every time, just jokingly, right? I don't like to bring pressure on anybody. I didn't want to bring that pressure on her. I don't know what Mr. Holmes has going on, right? I don't want to force my way into anything, but I'd always joke. I said, every time we go back to Easton and we see the statue, I said, man, when are you going to introduce me to the champ, man? When are you going to let me meet the champ? When are you going to let me have a conversation with Mr. Holmes? Like, you know, and she would be laughing it off. So this particular time, we went back to visit the family. And I think we had some obligations to do, visit the family. And so she says, hey, I got some, let's go somewhere. I'm like, okay, cool. You know, I'm thinking we're going to get some ice cream. You know what I'm saying? We're going to get some food. And so I've been to Easton enough times, and Easton isn't too massively big, but I've been there enough times to know that, hey, we haven't been in this direction before. Like, this is a different parts, but I'm not thinking too much of it. I'm thinking, you know, it's a new restaurant somewhere, new ice cream spot. So I'm just rolling with it. So I knew we were going to see the champ because the champ's name is like right on the entrance of the gate that is at his house. And there's a statue right there. And I'm like, oh, wait, we're going to meet the champ? And so I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, man, what questions do I want to ask Mr. Holmes? Because I'm like this in general with anybody, man. I always like to learn. I always like to ask different questions. I like to know how people were brought up. I like to know their backstory, their struggles, what they had to overcome, what they were thinking in certain moments. I like to know that stuff from people in general. But I'm like, man, I've been hearing stories about Mr. Holmes. I've been watching Mr. Holmes. I go back and watch the tape in his career, and I hear interviews of him, and I want to know a little bit about the guy because he defined a lot of odds that he shouldn't have been able to overcome. So I wanted to know what's going on with the champ. So I'm trying to think about questions that I could ask. So we get in, we get out, and my wife's friend is there. My wife's friend's mom is there, and a bunch of other people. And it just so happened that a lot of his family was at the house in this time, which, you know, from my understanding, they aren't all there at the same time like this. So Larry Holmes Jr. is there. Larry Holmes' son is there. The grandchildren are there. So there's a bunch of people there. So walk in and I see the champ on the couch, and the champ is just looking straight. I thought the champ was asleep. The champ looked sleepy. I thought Champ was sleeping because Champ got up like we woke him out of a slumber. You know what I'm saying? And so we walk over and they say, what's up? What's up, Grandpa? What's up, Dad? You know, we got someone that wants to meet you here. This is Akeem, you know, was an Olympic athlete, you know, this and that. And he comes and he shakes my hand. And so we sit down, right? And it's not just me there. Everybody's kind of there. And we're there just talking. And we're there just talking. Champ isn't really saying anything. It's kind of quiet. And so I said, okay, cool. Quiet means opportunity. So I said, okay, first question. I said, Champ, how you feeling? And I asked that because the champ was having some health complications, man. I later found out, before I found out that he was on holiday and he had a bad fall. And he like hit his head. So there was some things health-wise that he was battling. So I just generally wanted to know like how he was doing, because from my understanding, you know, he's not always as lucid all the time, right? But this was a good day. He said, man, I'm doing well. What's going on with you, young man? And the first thing the champ said was like, hey, he pops up, he looks, he says, y'all want a drink? I got some vodka. I said, no, champ, like I don't drink like that, champ. I'm all right. And so I asked him 3 things that I want to share in this conversation today. I said, champ, I said, what do you think about the heavyweights today? Are there some names that you like? Are there some people that you watch? Do you have any favorites? Like, do you support any of them? What do you think about this group of heavyweights? It's a much different time than what you were around to. And then I had a follow-up question with that because I wanted him to give a long-worded answer. I said, champ, what do you think? What are 3 things you think a heavyweight fighter needs to be a great? What do you think is missing in this era? And he looked at me and he looked at the TV and he looked at me and he said, a good fighter needs discipline. They need to be determined and they need to be hungry. He said, the problem with this generation of heavyweights is that they're not hungry, because all these guys care about is the money. And yeah, you have to make your money, but you can only make so much money. And you can only make so much money. And then you have to think about your legacy. And he said, back in my time, everybody would fight everybody. We'd all fight everybody because we would make money. But we'd all fight everybody because we wanted to know, out of all of us, who is the best, who is the greatest on the night. These guys nowadays, they don't really want to fight anybody. They just want to look good, but they don't want to be great. I said, okay, champ. I said, okay, champ. I hear you. So I paused a little bit, let the champ catch his breath. And I said, champ, because behind him, he has this big glass, old school wood oak, what's the word I'm looking for? Like shelf. And it has all of his championship belts, all of them, all of the championship belts. And I'm looking at it. And I said, champ, I got another question for you. I said, champ, when you look back and you look at these belts, man, what does it mean to you? Like, is it something that you still hold close to you? Is it something that, you know, when you're walking out in the middle of the night trying to get a snack, right? That you have your snack in hand and you walk over to your shelf and you look at these belts and you say, man, I did something here. Like, what does it mean to you? And the champ crossed his arms like this, turned around, looked at the shelf, and he says, these belts mean nothing to me. I said, champ, what do you mean? Can you expound on that a little bit more? He said, these belts right here mean nothing to me, but what it did for me meant everything to me. I said, champ, Interesting. Can you break that down a little bit more for me? He said, being in the boxing ring was what helped me provide for my family. It's what changed the direction of my family. He goes on to say, he was like, man, I dropped out of school in the fourth grade. He was like, the family was struggling, him and all the siblings, it was struggling. And so he was like, I got to do something. I have to go try to work. I got to do something. This school education stuff, it's great, but it's not helping me take care of my family. So the champ tells me the story about he dropped out of school to work and he found himself in the gym. And he went back home one time and he was sitting. He said he was sitting somewhere. I don't remember quite fully, but he was sitting and he said, man, if this is another avenue to help better myself and help better my family and help my family, and all I got to do is fight, I'm going to take this a lot more seriously. And so that's kind of how the champ, went into boxing. But the belts didn't mean nothing to him, right? It just meant this is what helped me take care of my family. But he said, this stuff could all burn in the fire, man. It's what it provided for me that meant everything to me. But I didn't care too much about those belts. So that was another interesting thing. And then I asked him about one more thing before I check out the chat. And if you guys have any questions, please let me know in the comments, man, before we close out. I asked him, I said, champ, I got one more question for you. You've been gracious with your time, and you have I appreciate your honesty. And again, throughout this time too, he offered me a shot of vodka like 3 more times. I'm like, champ, I don't drink like that. I'm saying, but a champ was trying to get me right. He was trying to get me straight. And so I said, champ, I know that Muhammad Ali is someone close to you, or was someone close to you, and you guys shared the ring together, shared rooms together on many different occasions. You guys were training partners. I said, champ, I can tell, we know what Ali has done inside of the ring. I don't need to really ask you about the intangible things, but I want to ask you, what was he like as a person on a day-to-day basis? Like, who was he? Is there any stories that you could tell me about him away from the ring? Like the person that he was, like what was that like? What was your relationship with him? And man, you can always tell when something hits someone in their soul and they want to make sure that they do the answer justice and they want to do the person justice. So the champ, man, took out a little handkerchief, kind of wiped off his glasses a little bit and pulled it back. And he looked at me and he smiled. And he didn't even say much. He looked at me and he smiled. And he said, that man was the greatest. That's all he said. That man was the greatest. He said, that man was the greatest. And so that was my conversation with Larry Holmes. That was me meeting Larry Holmes. And I probably spent 20, 25, 30 minutes with him. And we just talked. He shared a lot of great things, a lot of great conversation. But he was able to overachieve, and for what he was able to do with what little that he started with, and everything that boxing did for him, and what it provided for him. It's really cool to see and really cool to hear some of those stories, man. I did ask him one more thing before we move on. I said, champ, I said, you face some big punchers, man. I said, who hit you the hardest? Who hit you the hardest? And it was funny because when I asked that question, his daughter answered and his son answered. He said, Dad, I remember when Ernie Shavers hit you, I did not think that you were going to get up. I thought you were gone. I thought I was never going to see my dad again. I thought it was over with. And we all started laughing, right? And the champ said, man, Ernie Shavers hit me so hard, I forgot that I was in a fight. He said, Ernie Shavers hit me so hard, I was looking for excuses to get out of the fight. I didn't know how I got up. So I thought that was interesting. I thought that was pretty funny, man. So shout out to Ernie Shavers, man. But yeah, I thought that was funny. Ernie Shavers, that man can punch. And many people have said that about him as well, too. So that's what that conversation was like. That's how I met Mr. Holmes. That's a little bit of insight on that photo that was posted a couple of years back. Big Supreme, what's going on, big dog? What's going on, man? Good to see you down here, man. Good to see you. What do you think about Jojo Diaz versus Antonio Perez? Man, I am not big on Jojo Diaz anymore, man. I feel like every time that man goes to fight, it's just not the fight that I expected. I wouldn't be surprised if he loses this fight, but I think this is an opportunity. This is a fight that I think he should win. Will he win? I don't know, because you're never sure what Jojo Diaz is going to show up, man, or what he has left, or how well he has prepared for the fight. Sometimes he's in these fights and he looks pudgy. He doesn't look like he really trained for it. When he's not the same guy that he was at 130, man. I'm not sure what this weight fight is at well, too. So wouldn't be surprised if Diaz won. Wouldn't be surprised if he lost. If I had to choose today, I would say Diaz because of the experience and the fact that, he can still punch a little bit as well, too. So for me, it would be Diaz, but I don't remember his last fight. I'd have to go back and do some more research and watch a little bit more. But yeah, I'm not a big Diaz guy anymore, man. I'm off the Diaz train. That's a real answer, man. That's one thing about the older fighters, man, is they're going to tell you how it is. They're going to tell you how it is. Sheeraz knockdown was brutal, man. Ernie Shavers could crack. Like, that man was true heavyweights, right? These guys are heavyweights, but they're transformed heavyweight. Like Usyk he's a transformed heavyweight because he can do a lot of stuff that the younger, smaller guys in the divisions can do as well too. But back then, straightforward, mano a mano, punch you right in front of you type of deal, man. Hit him so damn hard that he, yo, that is funny. That is hilarious, man. I thought it was just funny listening to his kids say this, right? Because they were young at the time too. And they said, Dad, when Shavers hits you, when Ernie hits you, man, I thought that she wasn't going to come home that night. So that was funny, man. That was funny. That was funny. Larry Holmes quote, Rocky Marciano couldn't hold my shock. Larry Holmes is going to tell you like how it is, man. Shout out to Mr. Larry Holmes, the Eastern Assassin. Xavier, what's going on, big dog, man? Good to see you, man. I'm taking Curiel, man. I think it happens. I think Nanshinga puts forth a better performance, but I think the outcome is still going to be the same. Nanshinga, I think, has a lot of mental battles that he's going to have to wrestle with and is wrestling with. When you get hit like that, it's going to be interesting to see how he responds when he does get touched like that and what that consistent pressure is going to be like all over again for 12 rounds. So I think it's going to be a better performance from Nanshinga, but I think Curiel is going to do the same thing, and I think he comes out on top. And he's in Mexico at a smaller ring. Nanshinga has to stop Curiel in order to get the win, in my opinion, man. Good to see you down here, man. Good to see you down here. Who is going to be the man at the 100 meter at the Olympics, man? That's such a great question. I think it's still open. Noah Lyles is the favorite because of what he did last time and what he's ran. But at the same time, man, I think it's going to be close. I think there's going to be some Jamaicans in the mix. Obviously, the Americans are always running well. They're going to have a strong team. The U.S. team is the hardest team to make. They're always going to bring somebody, always going to bring it. Wouldn't be surprised if there's 3 Americans in that Olympic final. Wouldn't be surprised if there's 2 Jamaicans in that Olympic final. Probably going to be a Canadian in that race. Probably, Akani, who is a South African sprinter. He's going to be there, I think, as well, too. So it's going to be interesting. If I had to say today, my brother, I would have to go with, I got to throw Fred Curley in the mix because he's going to come back with a vengeance. I'm going to throw Christian Coleman in the mix. I'm going to throw Oblique Seville in the mix, a young Jamaican sprinter in the mix. I think it's too close to call, man. But I think it's going to be fast. I think it's going to be a lot of great competition, man. But I think the winning time of the 100 this year is going to be 9.6. And that's going to be one of the fastest times ever ran. I just think it's hard to see anybody breaking Usain Bolt's record. I don't see it happening, but I think 9'6" is going to win the Olympic final. That's going to be crazy. I think the women's 200 record is in trouble in the 1 and the 200 meter. That's going to be fast. Going to be crazy, crazy fast, man. So two more things. Again, last week I spoke about I wanted to do a giveaway to show my respect and appreciation for your guys' support on the channel. I got a couple copies of my book left, and I'm going to be giving away one. This is the second book that I've wrote. It's called Fear, Faith, and Fruition, and I'm going to be giving it away to someone that I will announce next week on the show. So I'm going to be throwing up how to enter the contest. If you would like to enter it, going to be very easy. Well, I'm not going to make it too easy, but it's going to be something boxing related, something life related. And someone will get this book next week. All you have to do, get your information. And once the winner is picked, get your information free of charge. I'll send you the book, no problem. But I just wanted to say, man, as much love as you guys show me, as much support, I really, really appreciate it. And so this is my way of giving back. That's something that I wanted to do on the channel a little bit more as the channel grows, is I want to be doing more giveaways, man, because as much as you guys support me, man, I don't take your ears, eyes, perspective for granted. We don't have to agree on any fight, but we can be respectful and talk about the fight. And you guys have always shown love. So again, I'll be throwing it up in the community section probably on Monday, and get an opportunity to get the book, send it to you, man. Again, my appreciation and respect and love for each of you, for the love and support that you show me. I want to show and give you love something back. So keep on the lookout for that. Any last comments before we close it out with the quote of the week and we get out of here? Again, appreciate each of you, man, for taking the time to tune in. I know it's a little bit late in different areas, and I'm thinking about, maybe in a month or so, see if we can dial things a little bit earlier, and see what that can do. Or maybe we do 2 shows. We'll see what happens. So appreciate each of you for tuning in. Let's close out. You know how we finish out every single live? We finish it with the quote of the week. This week's quote of the week comes to you by Roy T. Bennett. He says, "You cannot control the behavior of others, but you can always choose how you respond to it." Tell you this other story, man. I'm not gonna say his name. It's his story to tell if he ever tells it. But there is an individual that I used to train with. We're on the same team. This individual is one of the greatest sprinters. He will go down as one of the greatest sprinters when he decides to hang up the spikes. So a couple of years back, I just got out of college, and this individual is coming out of college, but he's hot, one of the top sprinters in the world, right? So he got a medal at this world championship. So he gets the medal. And so now he has a decision to make. Do I come out of school or do I stay in school another year? So if he comes out of school, man, he's one of the hottest things running. Big contract's going to want to come over him. Like, he's going to be a hot topic. So this individual comes into my room and he says, "Akeem, man, I got to ask you a question." I said, "Man, shoot, what you got?" And he says, "Man, how much do you think, what is a good contract?" Now, a good contract is different, right? Boxing and track and field, they operate in similar ways a little bit because you have a team around you, but they're both individual things. And so I've seen situations where fighters are getting, $2,000 for a fight. It's not a lot of money. I've seen situations where fighters are getting $600, $300 for a fight, right? In track and field, the way how it works, obviously you have a big sponsor, you have a big contract, you have the Nikes, you have the Pumas, you have Adidas, you have the big names. And so generally, from a business standpoint, if you are at that level, if you can get a contract with the big sponsorship and you're young and all these other intangible things, you can make good good money. So he says, Akeem, what's a good contract? And I said, you got to understand, like, that's a very subjective situation. A good contract in track and field, if you're able to get $50,000, man, that's a pretty good contract. That's a pretty good contract. And he says, man, I don't want $50,000. Like, I want Usain Bolt money. And I said, man, I love the ambition, but you have not done Usain Bolt things at this time. I'm always going to keep it honest, whether they like it or not. I'm going to keep it honest. I have nothing to gain, nothing to lose. I want the best for every single person. I said, man, you're not going to be able to command $250,000, $500,000, $1 million. You haven't gotten the same accomplishments and accolades as Usain Bolt. It's just not going to happen. So this is what a good contract is: $50,000, $75,000, like annually. Like, that's pretty good. If you're good with your money, you're not going crazy, you can be just fine with that. So he says, man, what do you think about me coming out of school? I said, man, I'm going to tell you this. I said, if you come out of school, right, make sure it's your decision, right? Don't let anybody tell you to come back to school, because when you go back to school, it makes the school look good. And he went to a great school, a very prestigious school with a great program. If you come back to school, they're going to use you. So you can just say, man, I'm going to go pro, and I can get it in my contract that they can pay for my school. So I'm giving him all this information. Again, we're telling the backstory because it all aligns back with this quote right here by Roe T. Bennett. So a couple months pass by. He comes and he visits my training facility out in Phoenix at the time. And he comes over to me, man, and he says, Akeem, can I talk to you for a second? I say, yeah, bro, what's going on, right? Because he decided to go back to school, right? He decided to go back to school. And he says, Akeem, can I talk to you for a second? I said, man, no problem, man. What's up? And so we kind of go away from everybody else. And then, like, he turns his back. So everybody is over here and his back is here. So he turns his back and he's looking at me. And I'm looking at him, and like a single tear comes down his face. I said, bro, what's going on? And he said, man, when I went back to school, my coach wanted me to pay her $50,000 to train. I said, what? I said, $50,000. Got to understand that most coaches, man, they are probably charging, most track and field coaches, they probably have some type of stipend with a major shoe company. For example, Nike has a training group that has a Nike coach. Adidas has a training group that has an Adidas coach. So those coaches who are specifically trained for those teams, they are getting stipends from Nike, from Adidas. So they're probably making an annual income from that. And then all the athletes that they have are probably paying them a certain set amount of fee. But I can tell you one thing, ain't none of those athletes paying those coaches $50,000. So I said, bro, they want that much from you? I said, that's crazy. And then he goes to say this. He says, man, I thought my coach cared about me. He said, going back to this quote, this is where it all comes together. You can't control the behavior of others, but you can always choose how you respond to it. I saw the hurt in my man's eye. I saw the frustration. I saw the pain because he felt like his coach was trying to do him wrong, even though they had a good relationship when he was in college, right? Everything was going smooth and they were running fast in college. And so I said to him, and I hope it sticks. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. I said, man, at the end of the day, you have to understand that certain things, they're looking at it from a business standpoint. And while her decision may have hurt your feelings, well, you just got introduced to how the business of sports work, because more times than not, everyone is trying to make as much money as they can. Everyone is trying to take as much as they can. And more times than not, it's not always like this, but if someone from a business standpoint has an opportunity to make some money from you, they are going to take it. You cannot look at business with feelings attached to it. So I said, now moving forward, man, you got to use this pain and use this experience and help it make you a better business and athlete in its entirety. You can't control what your coach said, how they responded to you, but now you can control because you can choose on how you maneuver situations moving forward. And so that is what came to mind when I thought about this and the story that made it attached, man. You can't control the behavior of others, man. But you can always choose how you respond to it. And I always say, man, be a good person regardless of who is watching. Be you regardless of who is watching. But every time that someone does something to you or someone responds a way how you didn't think that they should, man, look, wipe your hand with it and keep it pushing. There's a lot of things that happen to us in life that is out of our control, but the things that we can control, man, that's how we shift things back into our momentum, man. So as we close out, look, continue to be you, continue to be positive, continue to be the light that you want to see. That's what I always try to be. You can tell me you don't like me. There's been people in the comments who says, Akeem, you don't know what you're talking about in this box and stuff. Cool. That's what's up. Do your thing. Go watch something else. If you don't like what you're seeing, it's cool with me. Because I can't control what people say. I can't control what people do. But you're not going to stop me. You're not going to discourage me. And I'm going to choose to respond in a more constructive and positive manner and keep it pushing. That's all that we can do. We can't control what happens, but we definitely can control and choose to respond with good intentions, with positivity and love. So as we close out, man, I hope you got something from that quote. Hopefully it's an encouragement to you all. It's Tuesday. Sometimes the week goes by so quickly, but I appreciate each of you, man. Much love to each of you again. I appreciate you guys taking the time each week to come in and tune into the show, man. Truly, truly does mean a lot. I don't take it for granted. I got some more videos coming this week. Going to be a nice Friday night of boxing and Saturday, man. So again, much love. God bless. Keep the faith. Stay encouraged. And definitely keep going. Much love to each of you. God bless. Have a good rest of your night and have a greater week.